we've gotten reports from the sheriff's office that the Archer Mountain fire is expanding. It was 25 acres yesterday. Then we heard 65 today, and then it looks like it might be 128 acres or something like that. However, the threat levels have been going down, and some of the roads opening back up on this side, which is grateful. I'm grateful for that. But it's also unnerving because that could just come back if the wind picks up. And we're just hoping it doesn't. And also, I've just been wondering what's going on. And the sheriff has put out a map on the website, Skamania County Sheriff, on their Facebook page, I believe, actually. And so I wanted to check it out. My wife moved back in today, and the kids, which is nice. And it's a bit more smoky here, and she was complaining about that. And we have a 1.5-year-old. She's almost 2 now, and that's in smoke can be a major cause of SIDS, and so we're concerned about that. But we also don't want to encroach on my in-laws' home for too long periods of time if we don't have to. And our house is just set up for for little kids too, and we don't have to worry about them damaging other things. Our wild children can be pretty wild sometimes, and but it's good to be here. The smoke seems to come in real strong and then let up, and even though it may look like there's more smoke in town at some places, I don't know if there's more particles in the air, but your lungs tend to burn a little bit more out here, and there's just a heavier smell in the house. My right lung especially was burning today, and I put the mask back on. I'd kind of taken it off for a lot of the stuff I was doing today, and that was foolish because it was really burning my lungs by the end of the day here. I also went up and talked with one of my neighbors, Dan, about his experience with fires. He's well connected to the community and has lived here a while, and it was interesting to hear his experience.
In 1991, I lived down on the Columbia River in Prindle, and there was a hot, dry summer, and about 1 o'clock in the morning, the phone rang on a hot, windy night, and that was landline days, of course. And I heard the phone ring, and I thought it's kind of obnoxious to be calling at 1:45 in the morning, so I didn't answer it. But I heard the neighbor's voice kind of come on, and I thought, I wonder what that's about. And I walked outside actually to take a leak, and I saw this light up the gorge, and I realized pretty quickly it was a forest fire. And we stayed up all night watching it spread from Multnomah Falls to Angel's Rest and beyond. We'd see embers go up in the air and travel hundreds of yards and start a new fire. And we watched it burn all night long, and I thought for sure it'd be an absolute wasteland in the morning across the way. And that fire burned for 14 or 15 days, and it was pretty bad. But a couple things were very different about it. It was a stronger east wind at the time, and there was no smoke on this side. It all blew away, which was pleasant. And it wasn't as big a fire as this one. But my point is that I went over there hiking a lot in a range that got burned, and it quickly got really nice. I mean, next spring it looked like somebody had gone through with a weed eater and parked it out, and then there was columbine blooming everywhere. And so things do recover. But this last fire, I happened to be showing property in North Bonneville Saturday afternoon, and so I went up there just probably an hour or two after the fire started, and I got some pictures. I think I sent you one. It was kind of deja vu for me because the 91 fire, I'd also been in North Bonneville showing property like a few days prior, and there was a small fire then that didn't spread, but it was a similar kind of fire season. But then So this last fire, I think it started Thursday, is that right? Friday?
I can't remember.
Saturday, it started Saturday. Then Sunday, let's see, Saturday afternoon. Oh boy, I'm kind of exhausted from the last week, but I think it seems to me that it was either that night or the next night that it got really, really bad. So we were evacuated yesterday morning. Let's see, today is Wednesday.
Yes.
So it must have been Sunday night, must have been the night when it came across here and was so, maybe I'm just kind of lost track of time with the stress of the week. But anyways, we watched from here. We could see the same mountain range that I watched in 1991, although we're 1,200 feet here instead of down by the river. But it was kind of a deja vu feeling with just seeing the fire spreading all night long. Earlier that evening, we'd been up to Skamania Landing and watched it burn on the face of Nesmith Point with St. Peter's Dome backlighted by the fire. And that was really pretty fierce. And then one thing that's very different about this fire from the 91 fire is the winds have been much more erratic. In 91, it was just a strong east wind that blowed without break for several days, but it didn't vary and it didn't change direction. Here, the wind has varied and changed direction and blown smoke and burning embers, of course, over to this side of the gorge, which is how the Eagle Creek fire spread to Archer Mountain. And we, here in our yard and all over the place, there's been stuff coming out of the sky, burnt leaves and that kind of thing. Even earlier today, I was up the North Fork of the Washougal River, which is quite a ways from any fire going on, and there was a lot of blackened maple leaves on the ground from the fire, so it gives you an idea of the scale. But I don't know, do you have any questions? Or?
Yeah. Well, what's it been for you, like, stress-wise? And
it's been really stressful for us. So night before last, that was the night that we went up to Skamania Landing, and first we went to North Bonneville, and we have a couple of apartment buildings in North Bonneville, and our renters had been worried about whether they should vacate or not, because the fire looked so close to them. So we went up and met with one of the renters and looked at the fire there, and then we went to Skamania Landing, where we just sold a house on the river, and we went to the deck and there and watched the fire there, and then we came home, went to bed kind of late probably. Then at 1 o'clock the neighbor called and said we should look out our window, and that's when we started watching the thing going on all across there. And at 5 a.m. Richard Mahar, our county commissioner who lives right down the street, was actually up in Idaho, called and said that the fire had jumped the river and was over here and to be prepared for evacuation. And then a few hours later, and we knew it was a problem, then of course we got up and stayed up and started packing. A few hours later the sheriff came over and said we needed to be ready to leave on a moment's notice or no notice at all. So we packed, and it's kind of weird because we were packing and we had like a lot of time, It wasn't like a few minutes to pack and just grab your most valuable things, so we kept adding more and buying more, bringing more stuff into the cars. And we have a house that we built that we're selling down the hill here, and it doesn't close till next week, and we thought, well, that's a safer place to have our stuff, so we brought some stuff down to there. And then a few hours later we'd realized we had something down there that we needed, and we didn't really want to leave here. We didn't have to. And so it was back and forth, putting things in the car, taking them out when the wind shifted, and meanwhile, all day long people were texting and calling me, asking me if I knew anything. And up the road from here is Kellett Road, which goes along the power lines at the end of Maybe Mines Road. And we've sold most of the stuff up there, and those people were evacuated. We have a sale in progress on Kellett Road that was supposed to close today, and we got a call from the agent working for the buyer yesterday afternoon saying they didn't want to sign till they knew that their place didn't burn down, which we could understand. It was 5 forested acres, so that's kind of on hold. But mostly it was the stress of, trying to decide what to save and what to sacrifice if we had to, and just the not knowing. And the fact of the matter is, even though the evacuation order has been lifted, we still don't know, because if the wind shifts, and the fire's not going to go out till the rains come. They can try to contain it and that kind of thing, but until the rains come and stick around for several days, it's going to be burning. And as long as that's the case, we're vulnerable to winds. And if we get another hot, dry east wind, that fire will just pick up like that and might be coming over the mountain at any moment. So the next few weeks are probably not going to be very easy, because the rains start usually sometime in October. Last year they started in September, but I've seen them start Halloween, so we just don't know.
What was the I don't know, maybe you have an answer to this question. What was the most unnecessary thing that you packed up?
Oh God. I'd say dog food. A big bag of dog food. We didn't need to be moving that in and out, so we brought that down the hill and then realized we needed dog food and had to go back and get it. And that's not heirloom stuff. It's, you buy a bag of dog food any place in the planet, so that was pretty silly.
Yeah. Were there any stories that particularly stand out that were odd or interesting about this fire?
I really haven't heard any yet, I guess. The way it started is pretty sad. Just how pointless a fire it is in the first place. But I don't have any fresh memories of stories. But part of it is I'm pretty burned out. We didn't sleep well with the I guess it was actually night before. I can't even remember. We all are exhausted. And I have Parkinson's disease, and when I get stressed, I shake more and feel tireder, and so it's kind of rough. I'm looking forward to the rains returning, and looking forward to having clear skies and being able to see the mountains from my front yard and being able to breathe, and just having some sort of return to normalcy. But one of the funny things is this is going on when there's these massive evacuations with hurricanes in the southeast. And I think of that and think about how really easy we have. We were packing our stuff up yesterday and just bringing it out to the car, and we could stack stuff in the yard and then sort through it and stick it in the car, and it wasn't raining a foot an hour, or 8 inches an hour and blowing 800-mile-an-hour winds. It was just smoky with ash falling everywhere, but it was still pretty easy going compared to what they're enduring in the hurricane zones. So you gotta keep things in perspective.
And this fire on the Washington side the fires on the Washington side of the river, at least here in the Columbia Gorge, are pretty small compared to the Oregon side. How easy or difficult has it been to find information on it?
It's been mostly pretty easy from the Skamania County Sheriff's site and from people I know. I've gotten a couple of pieces of misinformation from people who I thought would have the right information. I heard first thing this morning that the fire on the Washington side had shrunk overnight, which was welcome news, and I posted that on Facebook, and then I heard that it actually had expanded. And the latest is that it has grown from 25 acres yesterday to 65 this morning to 112 a couple hours ago. So it's definitely growing. But with the lower temperatures, the lack of east wind, and more humid air, it's at least growing slower. So, and I'm pretty familiar with the area that it's in, having hiked all over it. So and also having sold some of the properties like that they're using for staging the fight, and so it's, you know, when I see a map of where the fire is, it means a lot to me. It's not just something hypothetical, because I'm familiar with the ground so much.
I guess the good news is that the other side may not be completely lost. There, some of that old growth or older timber might be not burning or something.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's terrible to see that burn, and it's really sickening to watch. But you know, to some extent, fires are healthy for forests, and that's one of the reasons why we should have large blocks of forests that don't have development in them, so that they can have fires. I mean, ideally, they're fires that are started naturally and are smaller, but there may be some new beauty over there when this is all over with. And nature does recover pretty well. Although if we have heavy rains early on, I can imagine there being landslides closing the highway and that kind of thing. One thing about the fire, the night we went up to Skamania Landing, 84 was closed, and turning off Salmon Falls Road onto 14 took 10 minutes just waiting for a break in the traffic. There was a steady stream of cars in both directions. Made me grateful that we don't usually have that.
At this point, I think we're all pretty tired. It's hard to stay on alert forever and having to move all your stuff out and move it back in. And you have to be ready to move out again at a moment's notice. And if the wind picks up and just happens to go in the wrong direction, that could be it. You know, it just could overtake us in a matter of hours or overnight. So my wife and I are both pretty exhausted and a little short with each other tonight, but we've been trying to be light and stay positive. And but as far as staying energetic, I don't think that's really possible at this point. We're just trying to sleep, and it's just, you know, it's when you've experienced something traumatic or loss, you know, that fatigue that just sets in, where you just want to crash, you know. And we've got that already with our young kids, but this on top of it has been really challenging. And my heart goes out to all the families out there all over the Northwest right now, and in the southern and eastern part of the United States where the hurricanes are going. And I know there's a lot of struggles. Like Archer Mountain is just one pinpoint on the map compared to the rest of the Columbia Gorge. And if you look on the maps of fires in the Northwest, there's all these just small spot fires that are really risking people's homes and damaging people's homes. And there's just a lot of untold stories out there, and a lot of untold stress and sadness and just hardship right now. And so I just want to say, keep the courage. Things will get better.